So Ezra Levant, as people may know, is the kind of the big boss at Rebel News. He is the CEO. He is the one that cultivated the organization back in 2015 and has been a very, very long-standing outsider independent media sphere. They were the ones that went to do interviews on the Freedom Convoy, talk to people on the street, which I give credit to that, even though stuff I disagree with Rebel News on their reporting. I disagree with some of the content, but I don't have to agree everything every publication reports on. That's why I have a show. That's why I'm able to do what I'm doing right now. And I feel that every time I see, stories about reporters at Rebel News being locked up or detained, or you're seeing, as I'm about to show you here, Ezra Levant having to go to court over a book that he's publishing, that he's released, that I have to give I have to give sympathy to that, because on the principal matter, regardless of how you feel about Rebel News, regardless of how you feel about these individuals, it is not okay to be arresting authors and arresting journalists because they don't step in line with the right with the right narrative that has been doctrined by the government, that's been doctrined by the establishment. So here's what Ezra Levant said on his way to court in Toronto. This just happened today. This was a last-minute add-on to the stream. But here's what he has to say about this.
Hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here. I'm in a taxi headed to downtown in Toronto. The traffic is madness, so I thought I'd better record this in the cab. I won't have time before I rush into the court. I'm going to the Federal Court of Appeal. It's got nothing to do with my arrest on the weekend. That's another story, but I'm in the Federal Court of Appeal today over my book.
So I should add this, too, that he was arrested when he went to Montreal to cover the protest that was happening over there. Now, I disagree with the statements regarding that Toronto police were supporting terrorism and they're arresting me because I'm Jewish. I don't agree with that notion of it, but I do have sympathy for the fact that this is a journalist going to cover an event and being arrested by the police for simply being a journalist. That is something that I stand on. That is something that, at a principle, I could stand and support Rebel News for that. Even though I have some, qualms and flourishes of the organization as a whole. But anyway, let's hear more of this.
Book, The Libranos, that I published in the 2019 federal election. And as you may know, Justin Trudeau's Elections Canada has been prosecuting me ever since 5 years. They've had me in legal hoops. We've had, this is like a fourth hearing, I think. They've spent easily $1 million, not just on internal bureaucrats and lawyers, but they've hired one of the most expensive downtown Toronto law firms, too. There's probably going to be half a dozen lawyers, and they're prosecuting me for my book. I've got one great lawyer, Sarah Miller, on my side, and I think she's used to 10-to-1 odds, so this will be easy for her. I'm kidding. It's an uphill battle, of course, because the government has decided that my book, called The Libranos, and they hate the cover of the book because it shows Justin Trudeau as if he's like a mob guy, like the Sopranos from that old TV show. They hate that book, and they've been investigating it since the 2019 election. They put so many resources behind it because, of course, it was much more important that they do that than look into, say, the 11 MPs who were elected in part because of the People's Republic of China. According to CSIS, China interfered in the 2019 and 2021 elections, but Elections Canada did not investigate. They couldn't care less. In fact, they were in support of it. They've had private meetings, as you know, with the Liberals and the NDP. Elections Canada, instead of defending our country and our elections against actual foreign interference, has taken on an author and has tried to criminalize my book because it was critical of Trudeau. I say again, there were 24 books published about Justin Trudeau in the 2019 election. Mine was critical. The other 23 were sort of loving tongue baths of Trudeau, and mine was the only one investigated and prosecuted. It's outrageous. I'll be live tweeting the proceedings. And if you want to help me cover the costs of my great lawyer, Sarah Miller, you can do that at the website, thelibranos.com, thelibranos.com. I'll be tweeting the hearing, and I'll be alone in the court. I'm certain of it. You won't have any civil liberties groups. You won't have any journalism groups. You won't have any authors or publishers there because I'm conservative. If I was a left-winger who had written a book criticizing, say, Stephen Harper, and I was prosecuted for writing a book, I would be the toast of the town. I would be given some, I don't know, Nobel Peace Prize or something, but because it's Trudeau who's prosecuting me for a conservative book, the establishment, authors, journalists, they don't care. If you think this is something to care about, if you don't like living in a country where police can grill authors for an hour over why they wrote a book, then help me out, if you please. Go to thelibranos.com. I know it seems like I'm fighting Trudeau every day, whether it's at protests on the street or in jail or in the Federal Court of Appeal today, and the answer is, yeah, I guess I am fighting Trudeau full time, and if you want to help me, I'd be grateful for it. All right, I'll talk to you soon by Twitter. I'm on my way. I should arrive at the courthouse in about 15 minutes.
So, there's the book there that he's talking about, the Libranos. And, again, regardless of how you feel about Ezra Levant, I have, critiques of him. I also have praises of him. I have praises of Rebel News, and I have critiques of that organization. The reason that I bring this to attention is regardless of, how you feel or what qualms you have about that organization, is that this is clearly an attack on free speech as an author, being able to publish content that, as a form of a book or a podcast or any form of media that critiques the current establishment. And right now, the current critique of the establishment is Trudeau. It's about the corruptions. It's about all the stuff that he's mentioning there. And because this was highlighted in his book, they don't like that. They don't like that that being, addressed into the public. And even though there's been a lot of books on Justin Trudeau, as he said there, mine was more kind of a critique of his administration, of the corruptions and scandals he's been in. I don't necessarily believe that it's just, a conservative, matter that, they're just going after conservative. I think it's more, you got to get out the left versus right dialect. I think this is more in the fact that Justin Trudeau is more favorable to the globalization establishment as a comparative to, someone like Stephen Harper or another individual. Like, this is more kind of the global initiative. Like, when he goes to do those tours in different countries or the G20 summit, he's more favorable to the global establishment than someone more in that sphere. I don't think it's conservative or liberal. I think it's just more of a class issue on that situation. You got to think outside the left versus right. So there's the book there. And I got to tell you, that mafia picture looks really good. I don't know why they hate it so much. I think that's pretty awesome. I wish I had, I wish someone drew me like that. I do have an appreciation for the mafia motif. I'll just say that. I do have appreciation for, because, I love The Godfather. I love Goodfellas. I've seen, Casino. I don't know. There's just something about that genre that's appealing. There's something about that that's pretty appealing. So that's the book that's currently in court right now that they're going back and forth on. And I brought this up. This is from Amazon, where the book is being sold right now. And this is just the description of this book. So it says, Justin Trudeau's term as a prime minister has been a disaster, but you wouldn't know it if your only source of news was the media party. The liberal-leaning clique of the reporters and commentators who would rather take a selfie with Trudeau than ask him a tough question. It's gotten even worse as the few remaining independent newspapers in Canada signed up for Trudeau's $600 million media bailout. Remember when he said that? Remember he said that? Oh, the reason they're not investigating me because I gave them money. No conflicting interests there. You just can't trust the media anymore, and Canadians know it. Trudeau wasn't properly vetted by the media in 2015. He slouched across the finish line in the strength of his last name and a baby boomer nostalgia of the Trudeau mania of the 1960s. That's when his father was prime minister. The result has been an incompetent government that has hurt Canada's prosperity at home and our relationships abroad. Canadians know something is desperately wrong. The latest polls show that 63% of voters disapprove of Trudeau's leadership, but with a full court press from the Liberal Party, the media party, and hundreds of third-party campaign groups, there is a good chance Trudeau will be reelected, even if it's just a minority. That's what this book is about. It's really the case against Justin Trudeau, but it's not about by anyone, one policy or gaffe. It's about the real risk of Trudeau, the culture of corruption and cronyism that he brought with him. That's coordinating our democracy and even our rule of law. The Libranos is the story of grifters and scammers and secret favors for friends. It's about sociopaths who don't hesitate for a second to break the law if it gets them ahead. But mainly it's about an unaccomplished man who has nothing to offer but a famous last name and a nice hair, and how he took power anyway. I might just do it again. So, that's a pretty interesting take of things. That's pretty interesting. Again, I do give credit to Rebel News on certain things. I do give credit to the organization. Like I said, I praise them for their reporting of the Freedom Convoy. They were the only kind of media establishment to ever step foot and interact with that crowd, whilst the CBC and Global News and CTV and the rest of the world were saying they're a bunch of neo-Nazis and white supremacists, and one of them was holding a swastika. That was all false. That was all made up. That was all fear-mongering. They were the only ones stepping foot to actually interact with the crowd. So I give them credit on that. I give them credit that they wrote the Tamara Leach book that I've read and explored her upbringing into becoming part of the Freedom Convoy. It's good to hear the perspective of a person like her and understand where she comes from. So, again, they do good things, they do bad things. I criticize Ezra Levant and Rebel News for, being kind of pro-genocide, pro-Israel, doing the same fear-mongering of, the Zionist movement, and there is allegations of getting funding from Zionist organizations. But again, the point that I'm bringing here is, regardless of all this, is that really comes down to a governance or a higher body slamming down on an artist, on an author, publishing content that critiques the establishment. And that is a direct threat of freedom of speech, of a charter amendment of freedom and rights of civilians here in Canada. And as a principal matter, I disagree with them prosecuting Ezra Levant for a book that he published. So, if you support the organization, again, this is why I bring it to attention, because I know there's people that watch Rebel News. I know there's fans out there that have seen this, but for those who haven't seen this, again, the reason I bring this to attention is about the fact that they're prosecuting an author who's contradictory, bringing up criticism of the establishment, and the establishment is holding this in a criminal court case. And that is just despicable that an author, an artist, no matter who you are, no matter what your side you're on or what opinion you have, is being persecuted by the Canadian government in such this matter. So that's why I bring it to attention. And if you want to find the book for yourself, like I said, this is what Amazon said about it. I'm sure you can go to Rebel News and get a copy there. I think they still sell in bookstores. I don't know. I'm almost kind of interested in getting it because I read the Tamara Leach book that they published, and that was pretty interesting. So maybe I'll look into this. But like I said, There's good and bad with Rebel News, just like there's good and bad with everything. But you have to stay principled to the fact of the matter that this is going after an author, this is going after an artist, which just is a total violation of charters of rights and freedoms of Canadians.